Minnesota and Columbus take the court here at court number 2. Minnesota will wear the green, Columbus will wear the white in our second group stage game. And we got started right away. We'll get names and numbers as best we can as we make our way through. Minnesota gets things started with a score. And Columbus ready to go. Again, the clock doesn't stop with few exceptions. Scoring for Minnesota was Steven Storch, number 73. Peckham trying to sneak around his defender, cannot. But Columbus will get a chance to reset at the 9-meter spot. One now the score. Columbus with the takeaway. Peckham from the middle. Got a tumble there. Number 77, Castaneda, took a spill. And I see the names and numbers once again don't exactly align with the rosters we were given, but we'll do the best we can. Duthit was involved in that last play. That's Farrell Harris, who will get a free throw here. He'll go up against Minnesota's keeper. Save, second save off the rebound. That's a tough spot to be in. Aaron Lippert with a couple of big ones, and that could be valuable later on. Just underway here in game 2 of group stage play here at court 2. U.S. Handball Union National Championships. It's a score for number 99, Sam Erickson. That makes it 2-1. Duthit to Peckham. Okay, let's, all right, we are back at it. The score is 2-1. Marcus Lilly is joining us. He just finished up the last game with Dallas, and Marcus, probably not the outcome you were looking for against Miami, but what do you make here of this start?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Miami was a slightly better team than us, but you know, next year around, I think this one is going to be interesting. I think Michigan, I've heard good things. We'll see how it goes. It's always interesting because you never know who's going to play on what team. It's a good mix of people and players from different places.
Now, while Marcus was coming in, there was a suspension issued on Minnesota. So they are playing shorthanded right now. The score is 2-2. And
it's really key to let that ball down directly when the referee calls it. Otherwise, if you shoot it away, that's stalling, that's ruining the game. That's 2 minutes straight out. Look at that. What a class shot.
No stalling necessary on the part of Farrell Harris. Columbus leads 3-2.
Solid shot, solid shot. Nice turn. Just excellent execution.
And a reminder, if you're new to handball, and in the case of the Minnesota suspension, once you get 3, then I think that's it. You're done for the game.
Exactly. 3 times, red card, you're out. You can also get a red card if you're doing something that is excessive or dangerous, but we hope not to see that.
You're right. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Minnesota taking their time on this possession. Hand off to the left side. Shot. Tough angle, but number 16 finds a way. That's Jackson Hampton, and we're even at 3. A shorthanded goal for Minnesota.
It's so difficult when you're the goalie there, and you want to open up, you want to cover it off, and then it comes exactly where you open it up. We call it the dentist fint normally when the goalie opens up and then closes it, but he wasn't fast enough that time.
Suspension has expired. Minnesota back at full strength.
Look at that. He's really making the most of the angle. I think the goalie needs to be a little bit further out from the cage there to really cover it up because he's not fast enough in the legs. That's also tricky. If you're a tall goalie, you're just not going to be as explosive as a shorter one.
And you were talking just a moment ago about what can happen when the goalie comes out to try to stop the ball handler. Dallas, I think, got a couple of goals in your game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Minnesota's Sam Erickson gives his squad another tying goal. Marcus, we've been back and forth here, 4-4 in the opening minutes.
Yeah, it's a game that really can turn either way. It's going to come down to who can also outrun the other team. It's solid passes compared to what we've seen before, so there's not so many fast breaks, but we will see. I think that will come into the game as they get a little bit more tired.
That goal did not count. What do we have here? It will be a reset for Columbus at the 9-meter spot.
Oh.
And they get the goal anyway from Peckham.
Look at that.
That was
the defense has to be out and pushing a little bit more there. They're not even lifting. They're standing on their heels. That makes it easy for him because he's not lifting more than, I would say, 7, 8 inches from the ground. The defense got to give a harder time there and take one corner so the goalie has a fair shot at it.
Minnesota resetting after Wakabayashi drew the foul. There he is again. The pass to the left.
Oh,
big
nice
stop by the Columbus keeper.
It's unfortunate because he really goes into the gap there, but he doesn't have the speed with him, so he kind of just stops because he has the sideways motion, and that makes it a relatively easy pick for the goalie. You got to come in with speed into the gap and not just into the gap itself.
Duthit getting harassed up the middle. Minnesota.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's tough when you get the push from the back.
And what could have been a stop instead will turn into a reset here for Columbus. Got to go to that 9-meter line.
All right. Let's see what they're doing.
Peckham.
Okay.
Tried
just
to
by
go
sheer
left.
force, I think he could have had a foul there because he was fairly locked up, but also he didn't really have a threat, so not that much that they're blocking. Oh, that goes out on sideline. Let's see if they can make something on this. Nah, it's too difficult. It's too difficult. Resetting the game, set themselves up.
5-4 the score, just over 21 minutes, or under 21 minutes, I should say, left in half number 1. Duthit over to Hochter. Hochter again, Duthit at the pivot spot.
Ooh. They're struggling a little bit to get speed on the ball. It's a lot of 101, and then either they get 2 people and they create that gap or it doesn't happen, but they're not really able to move the ball as quickly as they would need to create those spaces. Nice turnover.
Yes.
Ooh, nice. I mean, he's coming so clear and open there. It's beautiful.
We've been running into this throughout the tournament.
Don't ask the commentators. We might just say the wrong thing. That is not supposed to be a part of the game. What is a part of the game are those saves, though.
Minnesota
wanted that like potatoes.
Minnesota wanted to get the timeout call. And I'll explain what has been happening here. The scores table, people have been coming up thinking we're the scores table, but no, it's the one where the scoreboard is. So Minnesota calls a timeout with just under 20 minutes, 19:59 to be precise, 5-5 the score. Mike Beaton and Marcus Lilly here for game number 2 of a full day of games.
Yeah, it's actually Olausson, but like that one is trickier to say.
Oh.
I just borrowed this jersey.
Oh, you
like,
borrowed the...
Yeah,
oh,
we don't have
goodness.
that many jerseys to go around. Someone really needs to go in and fund handball in the U.S., you know?
Okay, because I think you're playing. I may have your game later. Hold on. Let's get you let's get you the right name, because I was going off the jerseys and I'm
that's completely fair. But I think that's a fair bit of going around. It's still a relatively young sport.
There
we are, yeah.
Olausson?
That's really good, man. Well done.
Olausson.
I've heard a lot of versions of it, and I've kind of given up. That was neat.
Marcus Olausson. Okay, well, yeah. Well, no wonder why I couldn't figure you out. You were number 17 on our roster sheet.
Things shift quickly in handball. It's the way of the game.
They certainly do. So we will resume play following the timeout. Mike Beaton and Marcus Olausson. Well, you know what? Okay, he's going to take a quick phone call here. 5-5 the score. It has been a tight one. Minnesota well outside that 9-meter line. Wakabayashi. Here comes Minnesota. A grab, but no matter. Minnesota comes up with the score. That was number 29, Austin Fisher. Columbus, though, they have been able to answer every time. Hochter doing just that. This could be a photo finish, perhaps. We still have a long way to go, of course. 19 minutes left in the first half, just about, but neither team is led by more than one. We've been trading goals throughout. Wakabayashi, right side. Pass to Eriksson. He was looking to make his move. He gets stopped, and Minnesota will get a reset opportunity. Wakabayashi looking for that seam, and then tosses it out of play. Our clock is approximate to the clock running at the scores table. We'll have a couple of women's teams following this game. Another save for Lippert. He had a couple of big ones against that free throw earlier. Minnesota taking a transition approach to make it 7-6. Wade Sutton. Duthit, Hochter. Peckham now, left side. Got caught up in a whistle. Josh Hederick got a little too close there. Free throw coming for Peckham. Lippert had a couple of saves in transition. He won't get that one, got a piece of it, but it squeaks by for a score. And we are even at 7. But again, neither side is led by more than one. Akrof Briki adds another one. Columbus gets the ball. Now they'll reset. Farrell Harris. Hochter, Peckham, Farrell Harris again to Peckham. Got hit. Columbus resetting. Almost a clean grab there by Steven Storch. But instead, Columbus hangs on to it. Lippert with the save, but another whistle. And this has got to be a tricky situation. Yellow card has been issued in that sequence, but if you're on the defense, that is a frustrating scenario. You think you've got the stop, and a couple of times Minnesota looked like they had it as they grab Farrell Harris again, and Storch will be called on that. Just when you think you have them surrounded, wrapped up. Peckham fell on his keister, but play continues. And Columbus finally gets a goal out of that possession. Minnesota looked like they had a stop there on a couple of occasions. 8-8 the score. Minnesota around. That shot clanks off the right post. Brieke had to look, just didn't quite go in. Farrell Harris. Behind the back dribble pass over to Peckham. Storch, he gets after it. He's been called for a few whistles, but he takes an aggressive approach, wants to, I think, get one of those steals that can turn into scoring plays. Official explaining the reset position. Peckham got tripped up. Minnesota gets the stop. Or do they? False alarm. Well, we'll see if we can get Olason back with us. If not, I can tell you that Farrell Harris, his shot smacked into the left post. Storch, Wakabayashi. Stellar defense there by Duthit, cutting off that lane for Wakabayashi. So we are still even at 8 with 13:48 left in the first half. Mike Beaton with you. I'll be with you all day at court number 2 as things are falling into place here. Minnesota with the takeaway. Wakabayashi leaks ahead, fires, scores. Columbus, they may take some time to work this possession here because their keeper, their goalie, has to change t-shirts or change the jersey. And it's a good thing he did. Hold up. Double dribble call, so Columbus catches a break. Their goalie just switched jerseys. That's Orr. Goalies have to wear the off-color jersey in this sport, similar to soccer. J.D. Orr was wearing the green shirt. J.D.'s also been helping us with the setup here. Called the game last night with Dish, talked about the 2 hours of sleep. But he looks wide awake there. Unfortunately, Wakabayashi, his shot flanked off the post. Farrell Harris, yes! We have seen both sides turns stops into scores. 9-9 with 12:05 to go. JD wearing the correct jersey now. Proud of his Ohio roots. Actually, a lot of the folks helping coordinate this tournament also playing in it. You saw King yesterday, Mike King with New York Athletic Club, JD in the first of 2 games today for Columbus. Beckham. Duthit. Beckham just outside that 6-meter line. Minnesota ball. Minnesota goal. Dare I say it, whoever can get on a run figures to have an edge here. Because again, the recurring trend of this game, neither side leading by more than 1. Columbus scores. Minnesota will take a timeout with 10:38 left in the first half. We'll be back in a moment. Back to action. Following the timeout, with just over 10 minutes remaining here at the Westgate Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are even at 10. Neither side has led by more than 1. It has been back and forth in every sense of the word. And that will go to Minnesota on the foul as they reset at the 9-meter spot. As you know, they got to stay outside the 6-meter position. That was a one-timer attempt, but Austin Fisher sailed that shot high. Duthit. Hochter back to Duthit. Peckham out of the wing. Duthit running the point. Being the pivot player. Peckham goes over the wall up the middle, but could not get it. Lippert didn't have to worry about that one. Here comes Minnesota. Wakabayashi or bats it out of play. Columbus with the stop. Duthit. Running what would be the basketball equivalent of the point guard, or the handball equivalent, I should say. Foul called on Minnesota. Peckham, Duthit. Hochter, Lippert. Used his body for the save. Minnesota looking to push. Wakabayashi. Whoa, look out. Passes to the backcourt. No problem there. And no problem for Minnesota. Austin Fisher zips one past Orr. Peckham. grabbed, and that is going to incur a whistle. Duthit, Achter, Lippert with the save, but the ball's still live. Lippert dives for it. Lippert reacted just in time. Minnesota gets a stop. Can they use it to get on what would be our first run? Again, neither team is led by more than one. No dice there for Minnesota THC. There we go. Everyone's still getting a sense of the timeout situation. .741 is what we have on the clock. Columbus takes the timeout. Here's another look at the schedule. Miami defeated Dallas earlier today. Dallas will be back later this evening to take on this Minnesota team. They're all in the same group. And we'll see Miami play Columbus after our pair of women's games. So we're going to get a bunch of group stage games completed by the end of this one. About 7.5 minutes left. Again, we'll have a pair of women's group stage games later. So Miami getting one today. A victory, that is, in group stage play. This is the men's D2. So Minnesota and Columbus representing the other. Everyone will get 3 group stage games. With the exception of men's D1, there are 5 teams there. Wakabayashi. Erickson. Here he comes. Oh, my. Had the look, had the goal, but it clanks off the left post. That iron has not been friendly to our field of contenders so far. Hochter. Duthit. And Columbus misses one the other way. Farrow Harris. Both teams trading some miscues here. Duthit to Hochter. Another goal for Columbus. And Woodard, number 1. That's that one. Wakabayashi was grabbed slightly by Hochter, but not enough to disrupt his cadence. 12-11 with 5.5 to go. Woodard, I think he entered the 6-meter zone. Minnesota, Wakabayashi now. Or with the save. If you just joined us, it has been back and forth from the beginning. Neither side leading by more than 1. Hard to believe, but it works like that in group stage play. And again, we'll see what happens in men's D2 because we do have another set of group stage games, D2 Group B that is. So what this could mean for the second round of play later this afternoon, hard to say. Or with another save on Breaky. Duthet caught the ball, but not quickly enough for a transition look. Farrell Harris. Farrell Harris again. Breaky thought he had the stop, but he's hit with the dribbling call. Farrell Harris to Duthet. Hochter. Lippert sends that one away. This game has seen a little bit of everything. And again, what that could mean for a matchup with Miami, hard to say. Miami certainly coming out of the gate with that runaway win over Dallas, but we have to see what the remaining group stage games bring us before we can seed the field. Wade Sutton in trouble, got out of it. Three minutes to go, and Minnesota with the largest lead of the game for either side. The first time today we've had a team go up by 2 or more. That doesn't mean a whole lot in this sport, but considering the flow of the first half, that breathing room could be helpful, but Peckham makes it a 1-goal game again. Wakabayashi, handoff. Whistle just as Erickson fired. And that will result in a suspension. And a free throw with 2:20 on the clock. Free throw goes in for Minnesota. I believe that was Hederick on the score. And Columbus will have to play shorthanded, but we've already seen our share of shorties. Farrell Harris getting one for Columbus. Minnesota throws it away. Of all the sports that I've covered, I think this is the one where you are most likely to score on a shorty. Compared to hockey and lacrosse, not saying it doesn't happen with those other sports too. Peckham got grabbed by Hederick. So that's the first suspension, by the way, for Columbus. And the suspension, of course, is a 2-minute penalty. Whoa! Well, good try there. Columbus looking for the foul call. Woodard not lacking effort there, just didn't go in. Under a minute to go. From the left side, the shot by Atanas Popov missed the mark. Duthet. Another stop for Minnesota. 30 seconds. Errant pass. I don't think either team is going to be discouraged going into half as the suspension expires. Full strength. Oh! Hochter had a look. Slung it too hard. Minnesota's got time. 5 seconds. Wakabayashi, he's got speed. Through the hole and in. That gap was found by Erickson, and that takes us into halftime. 15-13. What a way to end it. But we have another 30 minutes awaiting us, so we'll take another short break and come back for half number 2.
Eight-minute halftime. Yeah, so put it 6 now, I guess.
Stream's up and running. I think we had marked to see it to take a call, so, and then our stat monitor is still there.
I'll get on it. I'll leave it. You guys are the bench you were just on, I think, right?
Yeah, we're on that bench.
That's right. Dad doesn't have, she doesn't have an HDMI port on the laptop, which is the only requirement I set for the storing laptop. So we'll get that sorted. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I mean, it sounds good from what I'm hearing from Jason.
Yeah.
So you feel good?
There are. There's a few things, like some of the whistles. Having a color commentator might be helpful. Just
Why? Oh, why?
calling the game is pretty easy. But when I hear a whistle, it's like, okay,
Yeah, so
a yellow card, I guess, what does that mean?
you get a yellow for something that's later in the game, you would get a 2-minute for. It's just early on setting the tone. It's basically, hey, you can't do that, but no penalty because it's early, we're feeling the game out. Sort of thing.
Okay, that's.
Oh, give me the two. So we can put the one up. It was $2, but yep. No, usually it's by halftime.
That was the thing I was trying to pick up on the whistles. And like I said, been a lot of bikes and bikes that kind of want to sign up to it. One I've gathered too. Nobody can enter the Yep. Okay. So no, that I gathered, but it's like that does help. So the 6 meter line, everyone's got to be outside. Well, that makes in basketball they have like what they call a situation. If you barrel into a defensive set, they'll take you from foul there, and then. Second half just underway here at Westgate Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Mike Beaton with you at Court 2 throughout the day. This is our second men's D2 Group B game. We'll have our second round of group stage play later today. Escaping the grab, and hold up, we've got a penalty. A suspension is coming up on Minnesota. So the goal, I believe, will stand. And Minnesota will also get hit with the suspension. It's on number 3. So 2 minutes for Andrew Mielke. Minnesota will be shorthanded for this sequence. But as we've said before, you can score shorties at a rapid rate, and Minnesota does that. Sam Erickson. Forstoffel, the lob. Woodard fires wide left. 29 minutes. Again, just underway here in the second half. Minnesota having to serve a suspension on Andrew Mielke. 3 suspensions and you're out if you're new to this sport. Erickson to Wakabayashi. Right wing, makes the pass to Fisher. Overpass, big chance here for Columbus. Farrow Harris, kick save by Lippert. He has come up big in some of these transition opportunities, and in a close game, that could make a huge difference. Everyone pitching in, though. Some of our players are also serving as volunteers. As Pharaoh Harris, his shot was deflected. A couple of big saves for Minnesota. It is a true team effort here. We mentioned JD, the Columbus goalie, also helping coordinate this. Mike King, another one. So not only do you play the sport, you get to be involved everywhere else. It's a huge community. Of course, this sport massively popular in Europe, and you'll get to see another taste of that later this summer with the Summer Olympics in Paris. Minnesota lobs it, oh, just wide. That was a great heads-up play by Jackson Hampton with J.D. Orr leaving the spot. That was close. The suspension has expired. We're back to full strength. Minnesota waiting. Reminder, nobody can enter the 6-meter zone. Redemption for Hampton after he missed that last opportunity. As you've picked up on by now, as long as you do not land, if you get the shot off before you land, you're good, provided you were outside that 6-meter mark. Pharaoh Harris around. Leopard got a piece of it as the ball squirts away, and he'll retrieve it. Lipper coming up with some saves here in Minnesota after a neck-and-neck first half. For a long time, nobody had more than a 1-goal lead. Minnesota now leads by 3. They're wearing the green, Columbus wearing the white for this match. Wakabayashi lost the handle on the dribble. Hold up. Got to reset where the foul occurred. That takes away a fast break chance for Columbus. There's the grab and then a foul there. Austin Fisher was able to get to his defender initially, but once you get around, then it gets a little dicier. Speaking of dicing, that's exactly what 33 does to make it a 2-goal lead. Some of the Dallas players having a little fun while they're on their break. You'll see Marcus, though he's running camera for now, but Marcus and his crew. What do we have here? Timeout. Timeout with 25:37 remaining in the second half. We'll have our 2 women's group stage games to follow as we take another look at our day 2 schedule. Our first game completed earlier today. Miami defeating Dallas, Vancouver and Dallas, followed by Massif Salt Lake and California Eagles. Those will be the 2 women's games in group stage play, and we'll have the second group stage games later today. Two-goal lead for Minnesota over Columbus as we resume play. This is men's D2 Group B. We'll see this quadrant of teams, this quartet, later on this afternoon. Minnesota with another score. That is Wade Sutton, who makes it 18-15. Columbus says right back at you. Fast and furious. That's how quickly things can turn in the sport known as handball. Minnesota swinging it around, right to left to right to left. Pharaoh Harris with the defensive coverage that allowed him to snatch that steal, and that will lead to a transition score for Duthit. 1 goal game, 18-17. Minnesota fires back. Austin Fisher, Columbus. They'll wait for help. They were ready to floor it again. And given the pace of this one, I wouldn't blame them. Duthit. Hochter back to Peckham. Lippert with the leg save. Minnesota going outlets. Farrow Harris intercepted. That pass was underthrown, and no matter the sport, underthrown passes, basketball, football, handball, always risk getting picked off.
Yeah, he has no alternatives. All of his teammates have moved there. It's just kind of raw fighting spirit that keeps him on. They're lucky they're not getting that one against them. Oh, look at the turnover. That's a pity, that's a pity. Minnesota is trying to set their play, but they're not really getting their pivot in position. He's not really.
Well, they got that set.
They sure did. Actually, like that could have gone either way. All of our teams at this point. Let's see. Nice fast break, solid turn. There you also see the importance of moving sideways. When you're coming free there, he's just approaching the goalie straight ahead, straight on, and then the goalie becomes really, really big. If you move sideways instead, so he takes the last couple of steps to jump to the side, that forces the goalie to move, and he's not as big anymore. He has to show some gaps, because in that movement he's not going to have control. So it's tricky when you come in there, you're excited and you want to score, but you got to turn sideways. You got to make that sideways movement, because that's what will open up the gaps. But solid goalie. Solid save.
Oh, I think 18 there, Wade Sutton. I think he put his toe on that 6-meter line.
I think it was a bit more than the toe.
We've got a timeout here for Columbus with 12 minutes and 13 seconds. 4-goal game, Marcus. Minnesota trying to pull away with this one. It seems like they've made a couple more plays in the second half. Both teams have played each other real close.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the beauty of handball as well. We discussed it earlier that it's quite similar to basketball in the sense of the pace of the game. Anything can happen. It's just a couple of quick turns. You lose a couple of passes, and that completely changes the picture of the game. So 3 goals up, 15 minutes to go. Really not that big of a difference. And it all comes down to those kind of last nerve-wracking 5 minutes. You want to set yourself up well for those so you're not stressed out, but anything can happen in those last 5 minutes. And that's a little bit the beauty of the sport.
If you can stick around to the end. Well, if you were here yesterday, Marcus, our very first group stage game ended in a draw.
That was wild.
30-30.
That was wild. And they had really just, you could tell also how they celebrated. They really lost that game, and then they worked their way back, and they celebrated that draw as a win, which I absolutely think they did right to do. There was proper fighting spirit, and it was nice to see.
Well, you'll take a draw is better than a loss in group stage play.
100%.
If you can't get the win, hey, we have another clock stoppage here because the ball rolled all the way to the barrier.
But it's also almost a little bit dangerous in some games to have 3 goals up, because you can become a little bit complacent. You feel like you've already won the game, and it's so important to have that momentum, to have that adrenaline rushing and feeling like every situation matters. Handball is really a game of sticking your nose into the defense, creating space for your other players. And if you're not sticking your nose in, you're not going to get those 2 defenders.
Look at this.
he does that so easily. And you can see how he jumps, he forces the goalie to move with him. The goalie tries to move his arms up in the air, but there's just no way of blocking that space when he's that close by. It's tough.
Woodard with the last goal for Columbus. That makes it a 3-goal game. And with under 11 minutes to play.
And they're coming with a bit of speed. It's a tricky angle. It's a tricky angle.
Those side angles never easy to pull off.
No, and you can also see how well the defender placed himself there early. So he didn't have to do anything. He just stood. If he's moving in there and touching him, it's easy that it becomes a penalty shot because he's basically moving into the space. He's blocking an opportunity to score. So just standing there easy, let him take that. That's exactly what you want to do as a defender. That's the trickiest one to score on. And you could see that the goalie, I mean, I wouldn't say he's not tired, but he wasn't breaking a sweat over that one.
Well, Columbus certainly not breaking a sweat right now. Octor makes it a 2-goal game.
Look at that. I think this is going to get exciting towards the end. I think it can really swing either way. It's also interesting because you can really see how they're getting into their play, and then the defense changes a little bit and they tie up one guy, and that makes the entire thing stop. That did not stop. He just ran straight on through. That's rough. As a defender, you really got to be on your toes. He was standing on his heels. That makes him lose those 0.3 seconds. And then you're out as a defender. He's already passed you.
A split second is all it takes. Lippert.
Look at that.
Makes the save, and again, only the goalies can be in that 6-meter zone. Wakabayashi!
Look at that.
Another laser, in Minnesota back up by 4.
I mean, did you see how easily he makes that turn? He tricks a little bit towards the left side. He moves over to the right side, and he jumps, and he just like, yeah, the way that boy like jumps, very, very nice to see. You can tell that he's been doing this. This is not his first time playing handball. It's just all of the movements are right there.
Minnesota will take over.
Oh, look at this.
Wakabayashi again.
Run.
Yes!
And it's also just beautiful to see the way that, is that Eriksson 99 or who's 99?
99 is Eriksson, Sam Eriksson.
It's beautiful to see. He sees that space. He sees Kawiachi moving into that, even when it's 20 meters away. So he just puts the ball and it's there to pick up for Kawiachi when he gets there.
Woodard gets the goal for Columbus. And remember, they're not out of this, so you'll take that goal with 8.5 to go.
Absolutely. I think in this sport, as any, you'll take any goal you can get.
Right, there's never a bad time for a goal, but when it looked like Wakabayashi was going to give Minnesota perhaps that game-clinching surge of momentum, that was a timely score for Columbus.
Exactly. Nothing is out of reach. Oh, I think that's solid defense. They disturb enough to just keep the movement from happening. You can see what. Whoa.
But you know what, Marcus? I think in a sense it was also a break for Minnesota because they were about to lose the ball. Wakabayashi, that's 3 straight goals now for number 2. And Columbus keeping pace.
They make it look so easy. It's really like nothing. They're just the defender, he's not really in position, and then they take the shot standing still from 8 meters. They have good power behind the ball, and that's all you need.
Too many steps for number 4, Popov, so no goal there. Well, it's 30-26. We still have 7.5 to go, Marcus. I know Miami, we saw how polished their offense was in the first group stage game, but
yeah,
it could be these two.
Yeah.
I think could give them a run. We'll have to see, but we still have a long way to go, and Minnesota's already put up 30. Columbus not far behind at 26.
No.
And you were saying the way these two, when their offense is flowing, how quickly they can score goals.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, it's just good seeing like how they're not getting tied up. Before you saw a little bit that like it was one in the offense, they were getting a little bit too close to the defense. The defense was able to tie them up. Now the ball is moving much more freely, and it's a more fluent game. Speaking of which, I mean, they move about there well. What happened now? 2 minutes.
A suspension. That will stop the clock.
Did you see that, Mike? What was that for?
I did not. But the suspension is on Minnesota.
I gotta say, I think this was for arguing with the referees.
Okay.
It's there's a fine line there of informing the referees of what you think is happening on the court and arguing with them. And it's clear who has the whistle and who's calling the shots. And I don't think anyone has any doubts about that right now. That's one game you don't want to play. You don't play against the referees. They will win every single time.
Big chance over for Columbus, but as we were saying, Marcus, I feel handball, of all the sports that I've covered over the years, handball perhaps is the easiest to score shorthanded. And Minnesota's done a lot of that.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a lot of one-on-one positions, and if you can make your guy, I mean, then you're there.
And this guy can make some people miss for Kabayashi.
Absolutely.
Oh, that went off the post. Rebound, or got the stop.
There's so much will in that first shot, but it's a solid goalie save. And it's also, you can see, it's a lot of how much pressure the goalies and the defense put on the attackers. If you don't have that much pressure from the goalie, you can score that every time. If you have the pressure, that's when you're going to start hitting more difficult shots. And that's when you're hitting... do you call it the rim of the goal? What do you call it? The goal posts.
Crossbar, posts.
Sure, let's go for crossbar.
Crossbar. Well, in soccer, they call it crossbar or lacrosse when I call those sports back home. Columbus leaking out. Duthit.
Oh,
makes it a 3-goal game. And they're doing this again with Minnesota serving that suspension. Now, if you're Minnesota here, I understand there's no shot clock, so do you lay off, try to run out time, or do you keep going?
Well, I mean, there is a shot clock in handball, but it's not as apparent in other sports.
We just can't see it.
No, exactly. It's more an internal clock on the referees.
Okay, so you can't just sit there for 2-3 minutes.
No, I believe it's somewhere like 30 seconds if you're just kind of rolling the ball and nothing's really happening. And if you're standing still with the ball and you're not doing anything, that's about 3 seconds that you can stand still and not do anything. So you'll occasionally see in these games how an attacker, he just doesn't have anyone to pass, and a clock will run out of him. And that's the ideal thing in a defense. If you can make that happen, I mean, then you're solid. But it's also very dangerous because once you're out and you're covering people off, then you're leaving more space, and space is all you need. Yeah. He was inside. That was unfortunate. He had like maybe 2 inches on his heel inside. It was not a lot, but it's efficient, and he's not supposed to be there.
It's enough to award a free throw, though, to Minnesota as Peckham entered that 6-meter zone. Peckham.
He loaded that gun.
Oh, he did all right. And Marcus, we've seen a lot of trickery, a lot of fakes. No, he just wound up and fired.
I would say that was pure force, but also the placement of it was really good. You could tell like he has been loading that up, and that was not the first time he made that shot.
So that gives Minnesota a 3-goal lead. The suspension has expired.
And there you see, if Kawayachi would just be a little bit behind there, he would get that penalty shot. So it's really important in defense exactly where you're standing, which is sometimes tricky when you get like a 200-pound dude that's just smacking into you.
Well, Dutha got the goal regardless.
They did. Sometimes you just feel like, I'm pretty sure at one point I was standing outside, and then the referees call it, and you look down and you go like, well, I'm not outside anymore. Good save there.
Columbus.
It is tricky in those situations when you kind of have a defender that is hitting you and punching you a little bit, pushing you. Are you going to release the ball and then they have the risk of losing it, or are you going to hope that like you just land and you know that you're out of steps where you will get the free throw? It depends a lot. Here I think they could have made a different call.
Minnesota has the ball, but only a 2-goal lead, so you can't lay back too much. I would call this the danger zone in a sport like basketball.
Yeah, I think that translates quite well to this one as well.
Because if you lay back too much, it doesn't take a whole lot for your opponent to strike back or got to save. Columbus, you know they're going to be on the move.
Speaking of laying back, I think one of the most interesting handball moves also on the rule side of where it's passive play that I've seen is just, it's called a leaf. So the entire defense team, they just lay down on their backs, and typically confuses the offense. So they don't know what to do, right? Because it's random and it's weird. But then in reality, you only have 3 seconds to do anything. So if you're not doing anything in 3 seconds, the ball crosses over. So that's a classic play if you're a bit desperate and it's the last minute or so of the game. It can win you, but it's also very easy to lose because obviously you can score if everyone's just laying on their backs in the defense.
Columbus will use one of their timeouts with a minute 22 on the clock. 122, 2-goal game. Marcus, Columbus, they got to find a way to score at least twice.
Yeah, I think they have some ways of tying it. It's going to be interesting to see if they try going for a little bit more offensive defense to get that extra turnover. If they're going to keep the goalie in, or if they're going to switch him out to try to get one more pivot in. There's a couple of different plays. They can, of course, play the normal game as well, but in this situation, 2 goals down, the goal is technically already lost for them almost, so they got to do something different to try to get that edge.
Quick timeout, all things considered. 122, you just need 2 goals, but remember the clock doesn't stop for a score like it does in other sports.
No, it's really effective time. You got to make the most of it. If the ball runs away too far, that will stop the time. If anyone is injured, that will stop the time. But except for that, that could have been defining for the entire game if he would have gotten that fast break. And he does. Just hold it. Okay, they just got to hold it out now. They have absolutely nothing to gain. And I think we're going to see that offensive defense. Let's see.
Minnesota going for that dagger. It doesn't work out.
And I think that was ideal for Columbus, because also they release him there, they let him go. That's the worst kind of thing they're going to get. And if he doesn't go for the goal there, it's going to be a passive play. This late in the game, if you have an open chance to score and you're just wasting time, that's going to be a passive play. And this is also where that was definitely a holding, like you can see him getting pulled down a little bit. But it's also easier to get those once you're in the final minute, basically just to make sure that no one does anything stupid in the last minutes of the game. Just typically a lower tolerance for shenanigans in the last 2 minutes of the game.
24 seconds. Columbus needs 2 goals.
I think, that could have been, yeah,
I think that's going to do it for Minnesota.
I think so as well.
Yep, time will stop with 13 seconds. But that was the last gasp, I think, for Columbus. Minnesota.
It's going to be interesting, because if I would be Minnesota at this point, I would just give the ball to someone who can run with it, let him get tied up by the defense, and get the free throw. All right, there we are.
Or just run out the clock, as Minnesota just did. So they hang on, and they will get out of here with a gruelingly close group stage win, but you'll take it no matter how it comes. Minnesota beats Columbus 31-29, so Minnesota and Miami get the first win in group stage play. But you'll see Marcus and these two and everyone in this group later on this afternoon, so we'll see what the second round brings. But how about the opener between these two? Came right down to that last minute.
No, absolutely. Exciting game. I think both teams did really well, and I think this is exactly the type of opening game that you want to have. If you get the win, it's perfect. You have the win in your back. If you don't get the win, you still have that closeness. You're not that far off. It's a good start of the tournament. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Also very interesting to follow a couple of players. I think both Kawayashi and Eriksson, I really like the way they played. So just hats off to them. It's going to be fun playing them later. Thanks a lot, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks, Marcus. You'll see him later this afternoon. We'll take a short break and begin our women's group stage competition in just a few minutes.